right, we're back talking elections right here on News Central Television. Believe it or not, we have 3 states going to the polls with over 5.1 million registered voters set to vote in Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi states. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to the ballot right here on News Central TV. I'm Kofi Bartels.
Good morning, Kofi. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on the ballot this morning. It's good to be here with you again on this very important day. Now, talking about what is going to happen today. Now, it's like a day of reckoning for these states, and Nigerians are actually really keenly watching to see what goes on and how the elections actually pan out. Now, first of all, there's so much hope on the INEC that it keeps to its promises, as opposed to what happened during the general elections earlier this year. And also the security forces on ground in these specific states to be ready for action when people are, those who actually come to make trouble, come on ground. And then also for the electorates to make sure that their votes count. I think this is one thing that a lot of people are really hoping for, that today turns out to be free, fair, and credible, and also the electorate's votes get to count.
Yes, indeed, Dashin. So we'll be having coverage of these elections across all the states, looking at all the issues behind the voting, looking at all the information coming from our correspondents on the ground. We have correspondents in all the states, Imo State, Kogi State, and Bayelsa State, standing by to do justice and give us live updates, live reports from these states. I'm talking about Bettina, who's in Kogi State, Austin in Bayelsa State, and Nee in Imo State. They'll be joining us through the 3 hours that Dashin and myself will be here. But guess what? All through today, when we're done, we have more of our colleagues and anchors from News Central TV coming into the studio to continue on the ground live coverage of the elections from these 3 states. And of course, I don't think you can afford to touch your dial or change it out from this station. Well, we have interesting conversations. We're talking about the deployment of voting materials by INEC. I think that's quite a very sensitive one. On Thursday, we saw some of those items being deployed. Have they arrived early? Have they arrived late? What about accreditation? We're looking at all those. We have a data room where Onyeo is crunching the numbers and crunching the figures to get us, because elections are very important when it comes to numbers, and we'll be looking at all that. And of course, we look at the analysis of the 2019 elections compared to what we have today.
Well, it's very important, that today goes on as seamless as possible in all these 3 states. And that is our hope. History has really not been kind to us when it comes to, the elections. We've had spate of insecurity, violence, in most of the states. But hopefully today would be a different story entirely.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a quick break for a few seconds. So when we come back, we'll put our guests on the air and get straight into the action. Of course, we'll have our discussions right here on the ballot. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. It's still the ballot right here on News Central TV. Once again, I'm Kofi Bartels.
And I'm Dashin Usman. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. We have our guests standing by to do justice to the issues as they arise in our ongoing rolling coverage of the elections. With us here in the studio, Imala Joto is a politician and businessman. Joining us via Zoom, we're glad to say we have Philip Sokolo, who is a political analyst. He is in Bayelsa State. And Chukwuma Okenwa, he's executive director of Lead Network Africa. Of course, he joins us also via Zoom. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you this morning. Should we say happy elections?
You can say that again.
Yes. All right. So let's begin with you in the studio. We would like to actually talk about, the politics in Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa, and, would love to actually hear your thoughts on this. But talking about bringing it back to the elections also, Emmanuel Ajoto, I would like to hear from you what your expectations are on today's elections, and what factors do you think will determine the outcome of the elections?
Thank you very much. Generally speaking, I think that the off-cycle elections are usually much better than the general elections. I think the major challenge with the off-cycle elections has to do with security, and neither INEC nor the police have a solution to that problem, because there are fundamental issues of the society. You talk of illiteracy, you talk of the struggle for power, yes, and other things, marginalization, you can go on and on, poverty. So I don't think the police nor INEC have a solution to some of these fundamental issues. There's also the part of conversation that has to do with politics being over attractive. I mean, more than half of the persons that are currently in politics have no business there. Take away the perks, I mean, the attractiveness, those guys are going to run away. So service is really a very serious business. And if indeed you really want to serve, I don't think you will be that excited when you win elections or you get an appointment, because you know that a great burden has been placed on your shoulders. But back to the elections, well, I would expect that INEC would want to redeem itself. I mean, INEC has basically lost the little reputation it has left in the recent general elections. So I would want to think that they would want to redeem themselves, even though the man in the saddle has not changed. The man that conducted the general election is still the same man that is conducting the elections today. One will want to wonder if in the same climb, I mean, the way the elections went, one would expect that, you know, he either would have resigned or be kicked out, but that is not the case. He's still in the saddle, and we'll have to see how that goes. INEC have told us that they are prepared. The police have told us they are prepared. Those are usual rhetorics. Those are the things we hear before elections. You never will be able to tell how prepared you are until the D-Day, which is today. You never will be able to tell what politicians will do, the extent they will get to ensure they emerge victorious in the election until the very day. Right. So I think we have to keep our fingers crossed and just see how it goes. But generally speaking, from my perspective, I think the off-cycle elections are usually much better than the general elections. Interesting.
Over to you, Philip Sokolo. You're in Bayelsa State. Tell us your expectation today. Emmanuel says he believes that off-cycle elections are generally better organized than the main elections. But what are your thoughts on that, and basically your expectation for today's election, not just in Bayelsa State, but in all the 3 states?
Yeah, thank you very much. First, I want to appreciate you for inviting me to be on this platform to share lights on particularly what is happening in this or what is expected to happen in these off-cycle elections in the 3 states of Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo.
Okay, Mr. Phillips, can you shift your seat a bit backward, because we don't have the full complement of your face so we can see you clearly. You just shift your chair a bit backward so we can see you fully. Apologies for that. Yes. Yes, while you're working on that, let's go over to Chukwuemeka Okenwa. Chukwuemeka, you've been monitoring elections across not just Nigeria, but across the West African sub-region. You just came back from Liberia. What lessons did you pick from the Liberian election where you went to that you think, please correct me if I'm wrong, but what lessons can we pick from the other elections that we can apply to for our elections here in Nigeria?
Well, I think basically one of the things we can learn, which is a rise in indices across Africa, is the fact that citizen awareness and as well as engagement is enhancing outcomes in elections such as this. But unfortunately, one of the things I also see like about Nigerian instance is that politicians' strengths, politicians' desperations are really deployed to compromise election. And sadly, where I think that we need to really learn is in the issue of the electoral empire. You know, we know that in an election, I think the one conducted in was it Kenya, where like it was alleged that the electoral umpire compromised the process. we know that just shortly after the election, that was the end for the electoral umpire. But in our own case, having an umpire that conducted one of what political pundits has referred to as the worst election, in Nigerian history, having them also like to handle a sensitive election like the off-cycle election. I agree with my colleague that generally they're usually better, but of course, for off-cycle elections also, politicians are usually more desperate. They actually understand you have more eyes of the security, you have more eyes of the media, you have more eyes of the election observers. And so they seem to be like far better advanced in their strategy, in their desperation, in compromising the security agencies, which hitherto, is charged with the responsibility of guaranteeing the safety of the voters. And I think one other lessons we can also learn, is this issue of militarization of elections in Nigeria. Like we know that just at the southeast about 3 days ago, the military launched Operation Safe Conduct, right, for an election. That is very, very suggestive of a war situation, because we know that security is not just all about being protected. It's all about feeling safe. It's all about being free of the potentials of harm and feeling happy and feeling that maybe you are secured and that when you come out that nothing is going to happen. Yes, we know that even when you feel the whole state of those states with security, where those that are strong as their political celebrities or candidates will certainly still come out to vote. But the average Nigerian who really have underscored the electoral process over the time will keep asking the big question, does it really want my time? Considering the risk that is obvious. Because in Nigerian own case, a police wielding gun or a military wielding gun is also a security risk, because there have been countless incidences of stray bullets, so-called.
Okay, now let's come back to Phillips Okolo, if we still have you there. Yes, we do. So if you could pick up from where you stopped about your perspective on, or your expectations for the elections, and also what are the major stakes to anticipate in this off-cycle elections? Chukuma did touch a bit on security, so would like to know what major stakes there are, especially in Bayelsa State, to anticipate in this elections in spite of assurances by security officials.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like I said before, for inviting me to share light on this topical issue concerning these off-cycle elections in the states of Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo. Interestingly, I'm speaking right away from Sagbama local government area, Ebedebri community, to be precise, and from the comfort of my above my home. Shortly after now, I will step out to go and also cast my vote. But now, interestingly, these three states are high-risk areas in terms of elections in Nigeria, particularly occasioned by a lot of violence. And more particularly for the states of Kogi and Bayelsa. Bayelsa usually is actually an isolated settlement structure. What do I mean by that? There are different islands, to connect to this island. But interestingly, for the past 3 years now, there are some inroads in terms of construction of roads infrastructure to these settlements, so people can easily access them to now cast their votes and even return, or even security agencies can also move. And of course, even INEC personnel can also mobilize their resource in terms of manpower and materials to these voting points and polling units easily, as compared to 2019, 2020, or 2015, 2016. Now these three states, prior to this day, have been a lot of issues have arisen in terms of security. Okay, those moments not too long from now, we know that the Nigerian Labour Congress, president was brutalized. That is an indication of problems. And in Bayelsa also, you had some sort of violence from Membe area. Okay, so these are actually indications of the fact that these areas are flashpoints. But I think that the security agencies also are prepared seriously, I think, because the deployment is quite heavy.
All right.
Even though my friend Sukuma has already mentioned the point, highlighted the point that these security agents, seeing them around, seeing their presence alone, also is an intimidation to a large extent on the people, the voters, particularly the electorate. Because the electorate were expected to just come out quietly on their own, cast their vote freely, and go home. But that is not the situation. Because when we now see the security personnel heavily armed, it becomes like a threat. So even though they are just there to protect them, some may just say, is it worth it? Why don't I stay at home? But all of these are issues that have caused a problem in the Nigerian election processes. But I think that someday we'll get out of one of these situations wherein we will anticipate that, for example, what the former president Jonathan said, that elections are not worth the blood of anyone. To that extent, the stakeholders, particularly the dramatic personnel who are actually the actors, should, as a matter of fact, press upon their own supporters, so that all of them should play by the rule.
Okay.
And then even INEC play by the rule. So that I believe that the elections will be a little bit free for this time.
Thank you so much.
It is still early.
Thank you so much, Philip. So that I'm glad to say we have, and of course you're in Bayelsa State, so it's very, it dovetails perfectly. We have Austin, our correspondent on the ground in Bayelsa State. Austin, a very good morning to you. Thank you very much for your time. Just give us a sense of what the atmosphere is, not just in the area where you are in Bayelsa State, but if you can, throughout the state today.
All right, very good morning to you. Currently, we are at Braz local government headquarters, which is Tombwe. Behind me, you can see the large numbers of police officers who are trying to sort themselves out and get to their various polling units. We have 172 polling units in Braz local government area, and we have 10 political wards. However, the sorting of the materials was done throughout the night, and the POs and the various agents have moved down to their various polling units. So from this where we are standing right now, we'll move further to go to the various polling units to know how far the election is going.
All right, now, can you tell us what are, the political parties, especially those with top candidates, how are they gearing up for the elections at this moment? What have you heard?
And so far, so good. We have not been able to get across to any political, most of them, because where we are, there was curfew yesterday, so we couldn't move because of some of the security reports they got that because of some of the arrest. So they imposed curfew yesterday from 5:30 yesterday till this morning around 4 a.m. So we couldn't actually move around to ascertain what the political atmosphere like within those political supporters. But nevertheless, this morning that everywhere is free for us to move about, I think we can go further now to begin to look at for these persons you just mentioned.
All right, so Austin, what about the electorates? Are they already trooping in to vote, and accreditation process? Do you think it's going to be hitch-free this morning? What about the sensitive materials as well? Have they arrived?
Well, currently we're at the INEC headquarters of the local government, and we can't see any of these sensitive materials and even ad hoc staff on ground here already. So it means that they have gone to their various polling units. But one of the polling units that is not far from where the INEC office is, for now, nobody has come to that place. I think they are still waiting for the arrival of materials and the INEC staff. None of the eligible voters have actually come to the place. So the place, they just placed on it the units and the people who, the INEC has not even set up there, so to say. So we hope and believe that in the next few hours or few minutes, they will surely set up. What I felt what they have done so far is to ensure that they're able to take those materials far to those further places. So it means that what they are trying to do now is that those further areas will get more attention, and gradually those that are closer to the local governments will begin to get theirs subsequently. But however, the atmosphere is looks so peaceful because of the presence of the security personnel. We have enough security personnel on the grounds. Moving around the town, you can see that the security are visible. So like I said earlier on, the place behind me, you can see the number of them. They are trying to sort that themselves so that they'll be able to go to their various allocated
All right.
units.
Austin, so are you at the local government headquarters of INEC? Are you at a rack center? Where are you? Is that where the sensitive materials were sent to? Have they been sent there already? If yes, have they been dispersed to the various polling stations? Just want to understand. And why do we have all the security operatives? I can see a lot of them behind you. This is, what's the time now? 7:30. Why do we have all of them still with you? One would expect that by now they would have been deployed to the various postings or posts. Everything seems to be moving. Are things moving fast or not? Just try and help us clarify that, please.
Okay, fine. The reason why we are here now first is that we want to first see what the police are trying to do to ensure that they're able to dispatch most of the police officers that will accompany those INEC ad hoc staff, and subsequently provide security for the voters. But surprisingly, I don't really know who I'm going to ask why they have the numbers of police who are still on ground here, and we can't find any of these materials at the INEC office. But I know, of course, the rack center is not far from here. So as soon as we are done from this place, we go to the rack center to know why they have not, if they have gone further than this or what is happening. So for now, we just want to establish the fact that we still have the police who are still trying to sort out themselves so that they'll be able to move from their various polling units to the next one.
All right. Okay. So that means that at this point, the ad hoc staff have not left for the various locations. That's what you're saying.
Possibly we have not met any of them, so we can't actually say for free that they have not gone out.
All right. Okay. Okay. Austin, stand by. We'll come to you because we have Philip Sokolo, our guest analyst, who is in Bayelsa State. Philip, you were nodding while Austin, as our correspondent in Bayelsa State, was giving the report. You want to say something?
Yes. I think understandably, Austin is right, and to some extent, Austin may not be right. The reason is that the reason for the high number of police officers or security agents around the Brass Island, and particularly around the INEC area, they have to secure the area because, of course, that used to be a volatile area. If you remember, in 2019, a sitting deputy governor, and for example, the chairman of the PDP, one of the political parties, put differently, was put into house arrest, and he could not even step out of his own residence to come and cast votes. So it has always been a volatile area, but that notwithstanding, the reason why the security presence is there is to secure the area. Of course, that will be the central collation center for even the elections. Although collation may not have started, but I think there should be the establishment of firm security presence. And remember also, there were vibes from that area that, on that island, a certain party went to campaign. And of course, one of the either running mates made a statement that made a statement, a very serious statement at that. All of these issues may have accounted for. I don't want to repeat the statement the candidate made, but the fact remains that that could have accounted for the heavy deployment around that INEC facility in Brass itself. Now, but beyond that, I think that because like where I am, at the local government headquarters, there is heavy deployment of police and military personnel around the area. Then in the wards, the different wards, where this material, because all these materials you are talking about have already been moved into at the deployed, of course, deployed to the wards, the various wards. And as at the night, for example, throughout the night, as I monitored, the sorting was made, and then by this morning, all the respective people, police officers, and even INEC material, adult staff, and every other material, would then be moved towards the various voting points and units. So as I speak to you, I can see that they are already moving down. So the edge security at that particular area is expected.
Okay, Phillips, yes. But the reason I was asking Austin as well, Austin, will come back to you shortly, soon, is that this is 7:35, and they are all still in one location. Some of them looks like the headquarters of, and they've not dispersed. Yes, isn't Torn Brass a riverine community or area where you need to really live early?
No, that is one of the that's the end of that is the end of Nigeria. One end of Nigeria, and you cannot connect that brass on road for now, except that the current government, particularly maybe, is making an ambitious project. I don't know if they'll be able to complete it. If they complete it, fine. But I think they are already establishing a road there. But maybe perhaps in the next 4 years, when people can drive to that place, it's a possibility. But it's a very tall dream. It's not it's a very silly cost. I know that it's very, very expensive to make a road there, like some people have said before. But I know they are already working a road there. So for now, you cannot connect Brass Island on road.
You have to go by water.
Most of the settlements in Brass, all the settlements in Brass, for example, are isolated. Remember when I started, I said for Bayelsa, we have isolated settlement structure. And I was going to explain that there are different islands, and particularly for Brass, Satanijo, and Ekremo, as it were. For now, you can because the road has been established to Ekremo, so but that is to the local government headquarters. But for now, you cannot also drive to Satanijo local government headquarters. And of course, you want to Brass, you cannot access it on road. All of these areas can only be connected by river transportation. So it's expected, and it's expected that
now taking a look, looking at how very, very dicey it is in some parts of Bayelsa State, especially in Brass and Nimbe and some other communities. It's our hope that, the security situation that usually happens during elections in those areas would actually be tamed this time around. Now, while we're still in Bayelsa, would actually like for you to answer this question. I seem to remember in 2020, during the 2023 general elections or the presidential elections, Bayelsa recorded the worst voter turnout, in the country, with only 16% of voters, coming in to cast their ballots. Now, I would also like for you to tell us, do you think that there's a chance that this off-cycle elections would, would record more participation as compared to the general elections?
Yeah, I think that is explainable because it's also it's very clear that we agree there may be.
All right. Okay. We seem to have lost contact, but we'll try and get across to you. But I think, gentlemen, Chukwuma and Iman, I think, it's a wonderful opportunity for other candidates to say, hey, vote for me and I'll build road in Torn Brass. Because no road till now, such a state that has a lot of, resources when it comes to oil and gas. We'll look at the issues for each state very shortly, but that's something for you to chew on. We have approximately 50 minutes and 46 seconds for the elections to start, and those policemen are still at one location gathered. I don't know when they're going to reach the polling units. I go over to you, Chukuma. It looks like we are in for another bout of late arrival of materials, despite the promises made by the Independent National Electoral Commission. I mean, I'm looking at one article here where they said that they promised they're going to, get materials to the polling units on time this time around. Chukuma.
We look out for that, considering the fact also that in off-cycle election, you have more of INEC staff coordinating the process than ad hoc, who do not fall within that category as INEC staff. You know, they are just co-opted. Of course, we know that the reputation of INEC is in the hands of his own staff. But my worry over time is when you have like the top management team of any particular sector in Nigeria come up to make promises, we are going to do this. Oftentimes, I doubt whether they trickle down that through the process by building capacity, really discussing issues like reviewing. In time past, if we had issues of delay in delivering of election material, what led to it, what were the logistical gaps, how can that be improved on, and of course, getting the minds of the staff ready and of explaining to them the rationale why even an election has to start very much on time. Because when they do not understand, then somebody could as well just relax. We get there, we get there. And of course, for some local governments, where probably either there's no good access to road, or like the remotest local government in a particular state, some form of arrangements could also be done by all means to ensure that as at the time that the process starts, it has to start simultaneously across the state.
All right. Well, with that, we would actually love to connect with our correspondent, Ni Omoni, who is live and who is on ground in Imo State at the moment.